YouTube? It's your boy RushMoreRick, and we're back from a long, crazy hiatus. Maybe I'll tell y'all, maybe I'm not. Not in this video, though. We're going to get right into this reaction. The art of being second place.
Unlucky, having, bringing, or resulting from bad luck. Something that affects all of sports in some way. A player fumbles at the 1-yard line down by 4 with 30 seconds to go.
That's a punch,
Unlucky.
not a fumble.
A defender drops an interception that would have sealed the game, and the opposing team goes on to score that possession and wins it. Unlucky. After leading the entire game, on the final drive, a Hail Mary is completed that loses you the game. Unlucky. But these are all just plays or a moment from a single game that happened. So what do you call a player that played 20 years and was on the bad end of luck every time? Unfortunate, unfavorable, jinxed perhaps? Or maybe we can just call him by his actual name, Drew Brees. A without question top 10 quarterback of all time, but yet still the most unluckiest player maybe ever. And all of it somehow doesn't even feel believable. This all starts in 2008, where Drew Brees would have his best statistical season of his career at the time, leading the NFL in passing yards and passing touchdowns with over 5,000 yards and 34 touchdowns, joining a list that no quarterback wants to be in. That is, to lead the NFL in yards and touchdowns, but not be rewarded with the MVP, which went to Peyton Manning this year, landing Drew Brees to win Offensive Player of the Year, which again, isn't a list that a quarterback wants to be in. Since 1974, only one other quarterback has won Offensive Player of the Year, yet a different quarterback won MVP. So why didn't Brees win MVP this year? But when you look at the comparison between Brees and Manning, it's almost
Look at the 2008 season statistics. 34 touchdowns against 27, 5,000 yards against 4,000, 96.2 passer rating against 95. It's obvious Drew had the better stats, but this is relatively close. And I'm pretty sure it's going to come down to who team had the better success that year. I really don't remember, but I do remember Drew Brees taking that motherfucking Super Bowl against this nigga. So I guess they even. Gotta be even.
Concerning how he didn't win, with most stats leaning in Brees' favor. Yet something everyone knows is you can't win MVP without being one of the best teams in the league. Since 2000, there has only been 2 MVPs to win 10 games. Every other MVP won 11 or more, with a majority winning 12 or more. And in this 2008 season, Manning had a record of 12-4. Meanwhile, Brees went 8-8. And with a record like that, it's essentially impossible to win MVP. But going into the 2009 season, Brees had MVP on his mind, and he knew in order to get that, he couldn't replicate the same team success from last season. So Brees and the Saints did the only logical thing to do. They would go on to start the season 13-0, becoming only the 7th team in NFL history to do such a thing, joining the 1934 Bears, the 72 Dolphins, 98 Broncos, 05 Colts, 07 Patriots, and the 2009 Indianapolis Colts. So after an historic battle for MVP in 08, there was deja vu in the air the following season as well, having Peyton Manning win yet another MVP over Brees in back-to-back years. But this one's a little bit different, because in that 08 season, the clear winner was Peyton, purely off record. But you can't bring up that argument this season with the Saints winning 13 games and the Colts winning 14. So what do the numbers suggest? I mean, maybe Manning just had a better season. Well, Brees had a better completion percentage, more passing touchdowns, less interceptions, more passing yards per game, and had a better passer rating and QBR. So why didn't Brees win MVP this year? Well, I'm gonna be honest, your guess is as good as mine. I mean, to be fair, I was only 7 years old this season and couldn't comprehend the NFL at a high level, but every single stat, every single number, article, whatever it may be, is in Brees' favor. But I mean, after 2 back-to-back second-place finishes, the NFL voters basically have to give this award to Brees over the next couple seasons. Voter fatigue is a real thing in sports. But I want to remind you, the definition of unlucky.
Having, bringing, or resulting from bad luck. Now, here's my take on it. I don't think Drew I don't think Drew Brees is unlucky, if I'm being honest. It's so many players in so many different sports in a situation like his. Look at you say Drew Brees growing up and playing in an era where he was competing against the likes of Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, uh, Aaron Rodgers, so many different great quarterbacks in their own right. Now, if you go to basketball, you got great players like James Harden who would never capture the top hardware in his prime because he's playing against guys like Steph, LeBron. You got so many different talented teams, talented players who, unfortunately, some greats, like 10, 15 years down the line, you'll look at them and they're like, oh, they were one of the greatest. Whether one of the greatest players or one of the greatest scorers, they were never able to fully achieve that full success just because of the era that they came up with. It was somebody that was better than you. That was the teams that were better than yours, circumstances that were better. So maybe it is unlucky, maybe it's not. I just say unfortunate. I think it's very unfortunate.
Having, bringing, or resulting from bad luck. It felt like Brees' bad luck had ran its course. Winning an MVP almost felt inevitable. A second place finish because his team's success wasn't there, and another second place finish because of name value maybe? Now Brees obviously wasn't finished with elite play at the quarterback position, but neither was his competition. Because in 2011, Drew would light up the NFL world like he never has before, leading the Saints to yet another 13-win season that included an 8-game win streak, with wins over 3 opponents that won 10 games this season and also beat the eventual Super Bowl champs in the New York Giants. And Brees would yet again accomplish something very rare at the quarterback position. That is to lead the NFL in completion percentage, passing yards, and passing touchdowns. Since 1980, only 2 other quarterbacks have done such a thing, Kurt Warner in 2001 and Brady in 2007, landing both of these players with the MVP this.
And it's crazy to me that Drew Brees, he doesn't really get the credit that a lot, because he wasn't a winner. So what I've come to notice about football, because I'm not the biggest NFL football fan, but a lot of people who are, they put winning above everything, which I feel like in most sports that's the right way to see it. But at the same time, there should be a space where you appreciate the individuality amongst players who are great, but unfortunately it's a team sport. Unfortunately, no matter how great you are, there's still 11 other players on the field that you got to depend on. 12, 11, 10, etc. You get what I'm trying to say. But there's other pieces on the field that you got to depend on. So no matter how great, you could be having one of the greatest individual seasons, but if your team can't come pull it together to win a playoff game, it gets forgotten about, thrown away. If you make it to the Super Bowl but you get smacked in the Super Bowl, it gets thrown away. The history books are only written and remembered by the winners, by the victors. That's some old war quotes for y'all.
This season. Yet somehow, this just was not enough for Brees to bring home this award, because he had to deal with this man, and they don't call him a bad man for nothing. Having one of the greatest seasons ever by a quarterback, having a near perfect record at 14-1, while also having the second greatest touchdown to interception ratio in a season at 7.5 to 1. And these 2 numbers down here were the cherry on top. Rodgers would achieve the highest passer rating ever recorded in a season, along with the 3rd highest QBR. One of the best seasons we will ever see by a quarterback, overshadowed and forgotten in history. And after this season, it would be a dark time for Drew Brees and the Saints. They would enter a state of mediocrity in the NFL, winning 7 games 4 of the next 5 seasons. And a lot of people thought Brees would just dwindle out on the Saints, with a lot of losing seasons and eventually retire on a bad note. Yet the Saints weren't ready for that. Following this 5-year stretch after 2011, the Saints would do something that would alter the trajectory of their franchise. In 2016, the Saints would go 7-9 yet again, missing the playoffs and making their focus the NFL draft once again. And then this happened. A draft class that will go down in history as one of the greatest of all time. 4 players that would end up being Pro Bowlers, 2 that made All-Pro teams, and drafted the Offensive Rookie of the Year and Defensive Rookie of the Year. And just like that, the Saints were back, and that MVP Drew Brees had been longing for looked like a real possibility. Although the same thing that revived the Saints also destroyed Drew Brees. Following a bounce-back season from the Saints in 2017, going 11-5 and winning a playoff game, the 2018 season felt like their year. Everything lined up perfectly, seemed like something out of a movie. And Drew Brees would answer this call, putting together arguably his most impressive season of his career, throwing for just under 4,000 yards, 32 touchdowns, and only 5 interceptions, while also breaking the record for highest completion percentage in a season and leading the Saints to a 13-2 record as a starter. 17 years in, 3 second-place finishes for MVP. This was inevitable, one could say. No Brady, no A-Rod, no Peyton in his way this time. The only thing that could stop him was some curly-head kid from Texas that you might have heard of. After 17 years of waiting, the year where the Saints finally figured it all out, just for this kid to come into the league and throw for 50 touchdowns in his first year as a starter. Unlucky. 4 second-place finishes for MVP. I just can't understand how that's possible in any sport. Brees was just on the bad end of luck every damn time. And this video isn't even going to include maybe the most infamous play of Brees's.
When we were talking about the literal definition of unlucky, the Saints have been screwed over time and time again. Whether it be by bad officiating or fucking one of our cornerbacks just blatantly fucking missing a tackle on Stephon Diggs and then we get beat. When I say I don't maybe Drew is unlucky, but at the same time, it's not Drew. If you producing at a level that he's been producing at, and I always think he get overshadowed because he was never supposed to be. He was never supposed to be that guy. He was never supposed to be one of the guys. He was what, 5'9", 5'10", 5'11" on a good day. He was a short quarterback. He didn't have the prettiest form, the prettiest throw. He didn't throw the deepest balls. But at the same time, he just had that grit. He had that competitive nature where he willed his team to wins. He was so motivational. You can't say he was never bad though. He was extremely accurate. You know, he knew when to throw certain passes. He made good decisions. He was a smart quarterback. But you just got to think about it. Look at the guys in his era, in his generation of competing in the NFL, the guys that he played against, they just had better circumstances, better situations, and that's just what it come down to sometimes.
His career. That's just how unlucky he was. And I honestly think that this has led to Brees being a bit disrespected when it comes to ranking quarterbacks all time. For my basketball fans, I'm sure you're familiar with the trend where the NBA shows a stat, all for LeBron to be miles ahead of everyone else or for him to just be 90% of the list. Well, Drew Brees is the NFL version of that. When you look at the top 8 most passing yards in a season, Peyton Manning is at the top with the greatest passing season in NFL history, followed by Drew Brees, who he beat out by 1 single yard. You then have Brady and Mahomes, Brady at 3 and 5 and Mahomes at number 4. And then rounding out this list with numbers 6 through 8 consisting of Drew Brees, and again, Drew Brees. And yet this isn't even the most impressive list that Brees is a part of. Here's every quarterback to have a season of 70.5 completion percentage or better. At the top of the list, Brees set the record in 2018, which broke his previous record he set the year prior, which he also topped once again a year later. But then we finally get to our first quarterback not named Drew Brees on the list with Sam Bradford, who's followed by Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Ken Anderson, and yep, you guessed it, Drew Christopher Brees. A 13-time Pro Bowler, 2-time Offensive Player of the Year, and a Super Bowl champion. Playing in the greatest era of quarterbacks, Breeze dominated in the shadows of his peers. Women lie, men lie, but numbers never will.
Never.
And the tape sure as hell doesn't either. Hope everyone who watched this video learned something and also enjoyed. I'm out. Peace.
Banger video, the art of being second place. Unfortunately, no matter, because it could be like a life thing too. No matter how much you do, no matter how much people see you do, sometimes you're not always gonna get the recognition, the credit, the praise. Sometimes you never receive that. But if you look at the numbers, if you look at the work, you just gotta keep working. And that's one thing Drew Brees always did. That's why I will always be a Saints fan. Before I was a Saints fan, I was a Chargers fan. I follow my guy everywhere because he was that guy, and not just simply because he didn't look like every other quarterback. Every other quarterback that got praised, he wasn't the highest drafted. He wasn't the highest stock coming into the NFL. He was a backup for Phillip Rivers. He got sent away just so Phillip Rivers could take his reps. But hey, we're back. We got to be more consistent on the channel. We got to actually, put our stamp in this shit. We got to do more. We got to react more. There's always more to be done. So that's on me. Hopefully we could usher in this new wave of consistency and posting and building this shit from the ground up. Thank y'all for rocking out with me.